When I first saw this, I expected a flechette shotgun with glass shards, but this is a slug shotgun, and it works quite well. And it's because on impact they will explode in a small area. Direct hits only do impact damage, but explosion does puncture and slash. That way, they complete each other. This weapon would be OP if we could use internal bleeding, but we can't. Still, with hunter munitions, it's quite formidable. Especially considering the weapon has two separate damage instances, direct and AoE, which really goes well with hunter munitions. Even if it's a slug shotgun, each slug gets its own AoE, so you do get to feel like it's a low pellet buckshot, but with kabooms. Right out of the gate, I want to talk about the build. It's critical stuff, multi-shot, viral, fire rate, galvanized savvy, and hunter munitions. I think critical deceleration is worth it because of that extra chance for forced bleeding, and with it, some fire rate helps, because it's far from a hardest hitting shotgun. Chilling reload goes well with that, as we are reloading relatively frequently, and overall, with such high status chance, it's probably better to balance out damage elements and let that galvanized savvy work. Ammo economy is pretty good, so for the most part, I didn't feel like I needed any sort of ammo conversion. And since it's an auto shotgun, I decided to negate the recoil completely. Both deadhead and counterbalance are in. Rivens for this weapon are high in supply, and if I was crafting a riven, I'd love to have a multi-shot, toxin, and fire rate. That way we'd open up a slot for blaze, and all the powers of viral and heat together. Weapons drawbacks are self-stun, but that only happens when you're really close. And it has a rather poor accuracy when not aiming down sight. That only comes to play on range, but if you do know on which range you need to ADS, that shouldn't be a problem. This test shows the spread difference when ADSing and not at 10 meters, and you can see just how huge the difference is. But in general, it's pretty solid. Direct hits force impact procs, high status chance makes those explosions spread more status around, which definitely helps when dealing with crowds. After you deal with the first enemy, everyone is already primed. Goes without saying, but I'll say it just in case. Using punch through on weapons that explode on impact is bad, and it applies here. Gameplay wise, Astilla Prime ends up in the same family of grenade launchers in disguise, so Exceltra, Basmu, Pantera Prime. Exceltra is better for low level mob clearance. Astilla Prime is much better when it comes to dealing with single targets, but can still clear mobs. Pantera Prime and Basmu are mostly just single target weapons with some incidental splash. It's worth trying it over Exceltra, since it has orders of magnitude better ammo economy. And for some heavier targets, you can bring a melee with a heavy attack build on it. Use Astilla Prime to get bunch of status on it, and clap it with a heavy swing that preferably forces bleeding. It's questionable what will happen with this weapon when self-damage comes back. I assume that self-damage level will be very low, and that we'll still be able to use it. Remains to be seen. I definitely see that weapons with a rather low range AoE have a decent chance to gain popularity when self-damage comes back, which should be in the next update or so. As most shotguns in this game, Astilla Prime is a fun one. Might not be the strongest, but definitely has a place. When it comes to shotguns, we could compare it to Sobek, which also has some area of effect with an augment, but unlike Astilla Prime, Sobek completely flops in Steel Path. So if you are on an upgrade path from Sobek, this is likely to be a fun one for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.